More than 200 vehicles were hilariously destroyed on the rooftop car park of a long-term airport parking facility in Lisbon, the capital of Portugal. This impossibly entertaining spectacle occurred a week ago now on the 16th of August, and eyewitnesses initially fingered one of genius Elon's glorious creations for sparking it all up. It's getting a bit predictable now, isn't it? Perhaps that Tesla became self-aware following some kind of bizarre over-the-air update. Tesla is, after all, an AI company now, according to the Messiah at least. Upon achieving consciousness, Lisbon's latest little Lucifer doubtless did what all sentient beings do sooner or later: attempt to light one of its own farts. I'm John Cadogan from AutoExpert.com.au. New cars cheap, but Australia only. Website. Code. The fascinating thing about this humongous conflagration is that once again, those initial "the Tesla did it" eyewitness accounts are being sort of hosed down and buried by the official response that the cause is officially still under investigation by the judicial police of Lisbia, in this case. Lesbians are my favourite. Portugal is enthusiastically pumping up the electric utopia fairy tale, of course, and doubtless there is considerable political pressure not to upset the clean green narrative there. EV registrations in the land of the peri-peri increased 124% in the first 6 months of 2023, according to Mobility Portal Europe. EV fanboys and girls and all the other genders of EV fandom, obviously, including the DEI hires, and in fact especially them and their precious pronouns, are doubtless lobbying quite hard for the exoneration of Tesla on this one. Unfortunately, whether or not a Tesla pulled the trigger, as it were, completely misses the point. This report is sponsored by Saily, the new eSIM app backed by Nord Security. Saily is an awesome solution for staying connected without incurring those dreaded roaming charges. More at saily.com/AEJC. As a journalist, I've been basically everywhere, and I've had the sky-high roaming bills to prove it. But you can sidestep those with Saily. Just select the country you're heading to, choose a data plan, download the Saily app, and activate the plan before you leave. When you arrive, you step off the aircraft completely connected. A couple of clicks is all it takes. No need to sprint for a hotspot. Saily just works. Go to saily.com/AEJC now. You'll get 15% off. You'll never have to stand in a queue for a SIM card again, and you'll be seamlessly connected back home. Link in the description. Saily is available in over 150 countries. It's Android and iOS compatible. There's 24/7 chat support. And if you later discover that your device is not eSIM compatible, you will get a full refund. An eSIM is simple. The app plus your device's hardware creates a virtual SIM inside your phone or a tablet or smartwatch, so there's no need to install a physical SIM for every country that you plan on visiting. Go to saily.com/AEJC now and use promo code AEJC to get that 15% off. Stay connected when you travel and slash that dreaded roaming bill as well. You can trust Saily. It's brought to you by Nord Security. This event took place on a 3-level structure on the roof. UPS operates on the ground floor and they are kind of unscathed. The car park operated on levels 1 and 2 above, and only level 2, the rooftop, actually burned. In statements to Lusa News Agency, the sub-regional commander of Greater Lisbon for Civil Protection, Hugo Santos, said that the judicial police is already on the ground. Mr. Santos, one of Lisbia's top cops, might, I'd suggest, care to go back to media school. I would argue that it's hardly a law and order achievement for the cops to turn up and scratch each other's gonads in the ashes the day after a fire that caused, conservatively, 10 million euros in damage right next to the capital city's frickin' airport. What would be newsworthy in this situation is them deciding, it's not actually a priority. There's a serious point to this comment, okay? The cops do exactly this here in Australia too. They play 7 and 9's big pink oboes quite preferentially, and 7 and 9 suck right back, unhelpfully regurgitating any bullshit non-statement that some spin doctor in blue decides to offer. The cops don't get held to account for not offering useful information to the public, which is, I suppose, just the way they like it. According to SIC last night, the, quote, fire started in an electric car parked on the top floor of the rental company's car park and spread to other cars. SIC is a network TV station in Portugal. And it seems to me that there's almost certainly some official fudging of the narrative going on here. Like they're trying to frame the debate, predictably enough, because there would almost certainly be a ton of very interesting CCTV footage. There are millions of dollars of privately owned assets inside that car park. They would have cameras everywhere. And Mr. Santos, the top Lisbon police officer on the case with this one, probably has his hands all over that. I wouldn't be surprised at all to learn that some grubby fixer in the Lisbon Environment Minister's office quietly suggested that that footage not be made public until the media and public sentiment had kind of moved on to the next big thing. Now, the thing about this car park that really does matter is it's just not like the car parks that you visit, say your local shopping centre or the office. It's a valet service for starters. The company collects vehicles from travellers. It's a long-term valet parking service. And space is at a dead set premium. So they park the vehicles really, really close to each other, minus the lanes and the clearance to open the doors and the other access features that you would find typically in a publicly accessible car park. Those vehicles are sardines down there, or at least they were. It's Tetris with cars that they're playing in this place. And just look at the aftermath, dude. With no access, how the hell do the firefighters even hope to get close? Now, I just checked. There are 5.6 million registered passenger vehicles in Portugal. 22,839 are EVs and another 16,906 are plug-in hybrids. That's as at June 30, 2023, which is the most recent figures I could find. On the balance of probability, there's a very strong likelihood that there were multiple EVs and plug-in hybrids in that car park. And I say this, A, because Lisbon is the capital city of the country and EV distribution skews heavily towards capital cities where affluence is highest and daily commutes are shortest. On top of that, B, affluent people take pretty long holidays, and C, those same affluent people can absolutely afford a valet parking long-term arrangement, whereas everyone else, you, me, whatever, we're catching the bus and flying economy, right? Now, finally, D, I think we're up to, EV ownership skews massively towards affluence because the damn things are so expensive. EVs are a money magnet and a status symbol for some. There's nothing an EV likes more than a proper green masturbator with money. EVs are on wealthy morons like a Dyson on dust. Dude. So, let's say all of the eyewitnesses were wrong and the fire was caused by another influence. Perhaps a humanoid robot from the future teleported in with a flamethrower and torched El Parco Presidente Lisbia and trotted off to kill Sarah Connor. You could easily mistake that for a Tesla catching fire. Like, dude, honest error. The problem here is proximity, right? Whatever causes the fire, Smokey the Bear gets narcolepsy and lets things run amok. It really doesn't matter what causes it, okay? Except in the domain of prevention for next time. If there are hundreds of kilos of batteries in proximity to an event like this, a bad situation gets substantially worse. Those battery fires are unstoppable. They burn hotter, longer, more powerfully, and they bring their own oxygen, so conventional firefighting techniques just don't work. Doesn't affect a battery fire. It's got everything it needs, and you just have to wait for it to end, for the materials to react and become exhausted, you know? This fire took 4 hours to burn itself out. At best, from what I've seen, what little firefighting was actually done was focused on containment, which was thankfully successful. A small mercy there, and nobody was hurt, so that's great. So just this month alone, we've had Satan herself rising up from the pit of hell and letting a shitbox Mercedes EQE off the thermal chain in an underground car park in Cheongdong, South Korea. That three-pronged Chinese battery-powered Stuttgart suppository destroyed 140 cars, injured 23 people, and displaced hundreds of people from their homes, many of whom remain displaced a week later. Well done there, net zero German premium engineering. Inspired by all of this, perhaps, just days later, Kia's little Lucifer, the EV6, attempted a similar feat, also in South Korea. Sadly for it, unsuccessfully somewhat. It had to be content with self-immolation only, in addition to raining toxic heavy metal compounds, hydrofluoric acid, and lithium hexafluorophosphate all over those nearby, including firefighters on the scene with something of a loose grasp on the required PPE. With its nuts in a two-fire vice, the Seoul Metropolitan Government has advised EV owners not to park their battery shitboxes underground if they're charged at more than 90%. And they're going to trial limiting public charging to 80% battery capacity maximum in public spaces, with plans to expand that limit to private chargers. Good luck with that. Imagine that, right? Buying a car with a 60-litre fuel tank and then being told that you are not allowed to park it underground with more than 54 litres on board. But not to worry, regulations preventing you from filling it to more than 48 litres are on the way. So that's nice. And finally, to all of you bogans, rednecks, and otherwise uncategorised green numpties with your confirmation biases off the friggin' chart, chanting out loud at this point that EVs just don't catch fire as often as combustion cars, and therefore this is just more fake news from a boomer battery hater. Seen it all before in the comments, dude. Let me just offer you this, gently. First, these events happened. Ontologically, they exist. So there's that. Plus, a dude you've never heard of named Michael Spearpoint from the Department of Civil Engineering at the University of Canterbury over in Sheepshagistan, and Yuguang Li from the CSIRO here in Shitsville by the Sea analysed vehicle fires in Sheepshagistani car parks from 1995 to 2003. So this is interesting. They found A, that fire risk jumps significantly with age, and the pivot point appears to be roughly 10 years of age. Younger cars represented a disproportionately low fire risk rate compared to the proportion of cars that age on the road. After 10 years of age, the fire risk is disproportionately high in comparison. Conclusion: you capital E, capital V evangelists with your chant on fire risk are comparing new EVs to a quite mature fleet of combustion cars, and that doesn't make sense. You're including all of the old ones. The fleet of EVs operating today is overwhelmingly young and therefore reliable, and the fire risk is low comparatively. So well done comparing relatively new cars to combustion cars of all ages. There just aren't too many 10-year-old EVs on the road yet, but it's going to be hilarious when there are. I'd suggest, on the balance of probability, firefighters certainly will never be bored. And B, of the known causes of car fires over the ditch in Lanolin Lubeland, arson is actually the #1 cause of combustion car fires. And it's very hard indeed for me to see EVs as somehow impervious to this particular risk. I doubt that criminals and insurance fraudsters are going to give EVs a pass on this one because, commitment and respect for net zero. The #2 cause, interestingly enough, is electrical fault. Taking the high voltage system in EVs over to one side, EVs have most of the same components running on the same lead acid 12-volt system as their combustion car counterparts. So there's that. #3, mechanical failure or malfunction, which is about 1 in 6 combustion car fires in car parks, are caused by that, okay? Let's say this is unique to combustion cars and EVs are totally impervious here, quite generously. That might be a difference. And #4, carelessness. And I guess this means, how to put it succinctly, driving like an incompetent fuckwit and crashing into another car and or part of the structure and or its facilities and or services. As opposed to hooking up with Tiffany from the office in the car park, which is certainly careless, I admit, and hot, but unlikely to burn anything except one's current marriage. Ask me how I know. On careless driving in a car park, I don't see your average green zealot twat electric utopian as any less of an ambient dickwad behind the wheel compared with the median cult of incompetence operating vehicles around us every day more broadly. So, the bottom line, as EVs age, they're going to burn a hell of a lot more, and our regulators are doing sweet foxtrot alpha about that because they're very, very busy indeed trying to sell the public the net zero madness we didn't ask for on election day, while they enthusiastically strive to get the pronouns right while fellating Woodside and Santos, which is kind of a neat net zero dichotomy, and of course leaving some time free to attack free speech. Because I used to agree with Winston Churchill that the most powerful argument against democracy was simply a 5-minute conversation with the median voter. But these days, you simply have to watch Question Time and observe how these ignorant, scientifically illiterate DEI monkeys, elected representatives, comport themselves.